The Millionaire and the Male Beggar, a story of unexpected fortune. They say in this city, nothing is quite what it seems, especially when the man everyone thought was just another worn-out, scruffy factory worker turns out to be the richest billionaire around. Jake Morgan, name that alone makes headlines. Yet here he was, dressed in faded jeans and a grease-stained shirt, blending into the crowd of sweat and steel. Like a ghost, nobody noticed. But whispers started. How did a man with eyes so sharp, so restless, survive the brutal hum of factory machines day after day, hidden away like some shadow in the chaos of clanging metal and grinding gears? People stared. Some sneered. Others leaned in, curious. Rumors twisted faster than the conveyor belts. A millionaire pretending to be a man with nothing? Madness. Yet no one could deny that strange pull. Watching Jake work the night shift. His hands, rough but careful. His silence, thick with secrets. Even the smell of oil and smoke seemed to cling to him differently. Like he wasn't just hiding from the world, but escaping from something far darker. Then there was Lily, the cleaner with tired eyes and a backbone made of steel. Dirt under her nails, worn-out shoes, but a fire burning behind her glance. She moved fast, sweeping away the dust of broken dreams on factory floors, eyes fixed beyond the grime. Her little brother Max was her world, and every sigh she fought back was a hammer smashing into her chest. People said love doesn't grow in places like this. Too loud, too tough, too broken. But when Jake and Lily's glances collided amid the whirring machines, something electric sparked, warmth in frozen steel. But then it cracked. The arrogance of a wealthy rival, slick, sneering, dripping with venom, dragged Jake's secret out into the open like a carcass in the sun. Smirks and snide whispers followed. Social class. Betrayals stung sharp. Bitter tears told of trust broken, hearts slammed shut. And just when Jake wanted so desperately to fix things, Lily crumpled, collapsed like a broken doll, trembling and fragile, wrecked by the storm of stress and lies. Jake, for the first time, saw his deceit in full force, not just himself, but the people he cared for, drowning in the wreckage he caused. Max, small but brave, stepped forward, his innocence cutting through the tension like a knife, his quiet voice the last thread of hope hanging between them. Words spilled, raw, painful, desperate to find a way back. Truth and respect battled for the fragile ground of their love. Just when it seemed they might heal, a shadow from Jake's past darkened their fragile peace, casting doubt again. Can love born in lies survive the sharp blade of truth? Or will fear push them apart forever? The city waits, breath caught, watching these two on the edge of everything. Hey, before we continue with this amazing, many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Just as Jake opened his mouth to mend the rift, the factory's machinery screeched to a halt, silence slamming down like a guillotine. Dust hung heavy in the air, swirling slowly, as if all of time had paused. Everyone's eyes shifted, confused. The unease crackled, sparking questions. What's happening? Is it a breakdown? Muffled whispers cluttered the space, drowning out the tension between Jake and Lily. But then the air split with a loud crash as the factory doors burst open. A group of men wearing dark suits stormed in, faces like stone. Tension dripped off their polished shoes, leaving everyone breathless. Jake's heart raced. Didn't he recognize one of them? A flicker of recognition burrowed deep, sending icy dread coursing through him. It was his father's business partners, the very men who helped build his empire, but they also carried weighty secrets. "Jake Morgan," one of them bellowed, voice echoing as if the machines held their breath. "You are under arrest for fraud and embezzlement." The words ricocheted against the walls, chilling everyone. Faces turned pale. Lily's eyes widened, jagged shards of disbelief piercing her hope. Jake stepped forward, confusion shrouding his features. "Wait, what?" he stammered, hands trembling. I would never." Panic clawed at his throat, every breath feeling like a struggle. Around him, the crowd shifted, murmurs heating the air. "He's one of us." "No way. A millionaire? A crook?" The question hung heavy, but shock morphed into chaos. Lily's heart sank, dread swallowing her whole. Was this the man she'd felt the electric pull to? The one she dreamed of sharing a life with? Her vision swam, and despair gripped her like a vice. "Jake," she choked out, voice trembling. "Is it true?" The hopeful glances of love turned into daggers of betrayal. "Lily, please, he gasped. But before he could clarify, the officer stepped closer, grabbing Jake by the arm. The factory floor felt like it was spinning in a nightmare. Max's innocent gasp filled the space, a reminder of what was at stake. Tears threatened to break free as Lily stood frozen, caught between love and the shattering truth that threatened to swallow her whole. Then, like a match struck against flint, the door burst open again. A woman rushed in, breathless, hair a wild halo. Her eyes flashed with a mixture of anger and fear. "Stop! You can't take him!" she shouted, voice strong yet quaking. The crowd turned, stunned. "Who are you?" demanded one of the suited men, incredulous. "His sister," she replied, fire lighting her features. "You can't take him. You don't." The world around him faded, an uncertain future looming ahead, and the question thudded harder than ever. What else was true? As the chaotic scene unfolded, Jake's heart pounded in his chest like a drumbeat of despair. He looked from the stern faces of the men in suits to the wild-eyed woman who claimed to be his sister. Confusion tangled like a spider's web in his mind. You're my sister?" he stammered, the weight of recognition hitting him like a punch to the gut. "I'm here to protect you," she insisted, urgency flooding her voice. But her words barely registered. Shock had locked Jake's mind in a vice. What did it mean? How could he not have known? Lily stood still, her world unraveling. "Jake, if you have a sister, why didn't you tell me? What else are you hiding?" Her voice trembled, each word a knife cutting deeper. The trust they had built lay in tatters, vulnerability in the open air like a raw sore. In that charged moment, the tension shifted again. The crowd shifted eerily. Whispers rippled like rippling water. "He knew! He lied!" "What does she want?" The murmur of voices clawed at Jake's sanity. He felt exposed under their scrutiny, a man stripped of layers, left raw and naked. "Shut it down!" Another of the men in suits snapped, directing his voice toward the factory's foreman. "This investigation is crucial. We need to pull all financial records." Jake's heart raced. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about Lily, Max, and everything they had forged together in this unforgiving place. Just when Jake thought his world had shattered completely, a deafening crash erupted from the far corner of the factory. Metal screamed against metal. Sparks flew like angry fireflies, and then darkness. The lights blinked and went out, plunging everyone into chaos. A thick silence followed, only the pounding of hearts and the distant echo of confusion filling the void. Then a voice broke through the darkness, a terrified cry. "Max!" Lily's scream cut like glass. In a flash, she was running, arms stretching out to her brother, who was now lost in the shadows. Panic surged through her, making her limbs feel heavy, her heart racing in an unrelenting gallop. "Jake, help!" she shouted, her eyes wide with terror. Jake shook himself from the fog of disbelief, adrenaline igniting within him. "I'm here. Let's find him." He bolted after her, fear driving him forward. But just as they reached the spot where Max had stood, something jolted him. It wasn't just darkness they faced now, as the alarms blared to life, illuminating the corners of the mechanical beast that was the factory. A surreal sight met their eyes. There, sprawled on the ground, was Jake's sister, unconscious. "What? How?" he gasped, his voice breaking. Memories of a family he thought he'd lost resurfaced with crushing weight. But it didn't stop there. As Lily knelt beside the woman, panic in her eyes, something caught Jake's gaze. A glint of silver peeking out from her coat. He leaned closer, prying open her hand. To his utter disbelief, within her palm lay a small, intricately engraved locket. There was a portrait inside, a picture of Jake with another woman. The woman looked familiar but different, eyes gleaming with the same intensity he recognized. His breath suspended in his throat, every layer of mystery begun to unravel, revealing a tangled web of relationships he never knew existed. "Who is she?" Lily whispered, her voice a haunting echo in the thickening air. Jake felt the ground beneath him shift. Was this the truth he had feared? As the factory's lights flickered with urgency, he knew this discovery would change everything, even the way he viewed his own life and the people he thought he could trust. The clock was ticking, shadows hovered like vultures, and the question echoed louder than ever. Who was really lying, and how deep did the betrayal run? Jake stared at the locket in his sister's hand, a mixture of disbelief and confusion coursing through him. The portrait inside felt like a knife twisting in his gut. Who was this woman? What did it mean for everything he thought he knew? Lily knelt beside his sister, her fingers trembling as they brushed the woman's cheek. "Jake, what's going on? You need to explain now," she urged, her voice strained, laced with fear. He could see the storm of emotions swirling in her eyes. Love, confusion, anger. Each flicker shattered his heart a little more. But before he could find the words, a loud crash broke through the chaos, shaking the ground beneath them. The factory walls rattled, the machinery growled ominously, sending ripples of fear dancing through the crowd. The lights flickered wildly. In that moment, panic surged anew. "Get back!" one of the suited men shouted, raising his voice above the fray, his expression transforming into terror. "Everyone, run!" Before Jake could process the command, a deafening explosion rocked the factory. The air was filled with shattering glass and the screams of terrified workers. "Lily, stay close!" Jake shouted, lunging for her. In the din, everything warped into chaos. Dust filled the air, thick and choking. A burning heat spread through the room, igniting the smell of smoke. Jake felt a wave of urgency as he reached for Lily's hand. But suddenly a shadowy figure loomed in the smoke. A man, scruffy and wild, clutching a briefcase, eyes glinting madly. "Jake!" the figure shrieked, the sound punctuated by a round of gunfire that sent everyone sprawling to the ground. The chaos descended. People screamed and scattered like leaves in a storm. Lily's grip slipped from his hand, swallowed by swirling panic. "Jake, please!" Lily shouted, her voice breaking through the noise, fear etched on her features. But in the frenzy, he couldn't spot her, couldn't reach her. Then, like a bolt of lightning, realization struck. The man meant to expose him. This was his past coming back to haunt him, a life he thought he had left behind. A distant, faded memory of betrayal, whispers of danger that now clawed their way to the surface. Why? Why are you doing this? Jake shouted, desperation echoing in his voice, lunging toward the man. What do you want from me? But the man only laughed, low and chilling. Everything you have, Jake, and the truth. The truth is darker than you think. A gasp exploded from the crowd. Faces turned, horror unfolding before them like a tapestry of despair. The shadows seemed alive now, creeping in and out of view, suffocating. Suddenly, Jake's sister stirred, groaning softly, eyes fluttering open. But as she looked at him, confusion replaced recognition. "Jake, I don't know where I am," she murmured, voice delicate, as if every word was a fragile glass ornament. The urgency of the moment clashed violently with the vulnerability in her tone. "Stay down," Jake urged, panic threading his voice with desperation. But as he spoke, the suited man drew closer, his grin widening. "Don't you see, Jake? There's a legacy you don't remember. One that could tear you apart. You're not just a factory worker hiding a secret." Before he could finish, another explosion erupted, sending him staggering back, heart racing, words fading to echoes. Amid the chaos, a voice broke through, crystal clear in contrast to the destruction. "Jake, trust me." Lily reappeared, her eyes blazing with determination, cutting through the smoke like a beacon. That glance held a promise, a flicker of strength. But then the shadows shifted, and with them, Jake's world spun. Everything he thought he knew collapsed under the weight of a single truth that threatened to destroy him. Who was the sister? What secrets did she hold? And what darkness lay buried deep within Jake himself? With everything hanging in the balance, the pieces of the puzzle scattered like ashes in the wind, Jake felt braced on the edge of a terrifying revelation. All he could do was push forward, desperate to uncover the truth, even if it shattered him completely. Jake felt the heat of the moment close in around him, air thick with panic and the acrid smell of smoke. He locked eyes with Lily as she fought to keep her fear hidden, but it flickered there, raw and unshielded. Just as he was about to reach out for her, the factory trembled beneath them, shuddering like a beast waking from slumber. Alarms blared, drowning everything else out. But one sound broke through, a familiar laugh. It twisted his heart with dread. The man holding the briefcase, the harbinger of chaos, grinned wide, eyes glinting with malice. "You think this is the end, Jake?" he called out, voice dripping with contempt. "Oh, it's just the beginning. You still don't know who you're really dealing with." "Shut up," Jake shouted back, but uncertainty gnawed at him. What did he mean? Just then, the room erupted in screaming, chaos devouring any semblance of rationality. And then, another figure emerged from the smoke, a tall man with an imposing presence, moving slowly but deliberately. Something about him sent a shiver down Jake's spine. Recognition hit harder than a punch to the gut. It was his father, his long-lost father, a specter he thought he'd buried in the past. "Dad?" Jake's voice cracked, disbelief washing over him like a flood. He hadn't seen that face in so long, not since the family had shattered and secrets buried deep. But his father's eyes were filled with an intensity that matched the horror unfolding around them. "Jake," his father said, voice like gravel, "you need to understand. You're caught in something much larger than you realize. They're coming for us, and no stop at nothing." "Stop what?" Lily's voice was a whisper, confusion blanketing her features. Jake felt lost, balancing between the past and the present, the weight of betrayal suffocating him. "You think you've seen true darkness?" Jake's father continued, stepping forward into the flickering light. "The truth will either save you or destroy you completely. There's a reason the police are here." Just then, the factory lights flickered again, the oppressive darkness threatening to swallow them whole. Lily turned to Jake, eyes wide with fear. What is he talking about? Before Jake could answer, chaos erupted anew. The man with the briefcase lunged forward. The crowd gasped, and every instinct screamed for Jake to act. But the explosion of his father's revelation hung heavy in the air. Suddenly, the locket in his sister's hand flickered, catching a beam from the emergency lights. Jake's heart raced. An image inside that locket wasn't just familiar, it was unmistakable. There was a woman, someone who looked like his mother, but young, vibrant, lips curved in a smile that felt like a memory and a nightmare wrapped together. "Jake, get back!" his father shouted as the man rushed at them. But Jake was frozen, eyes glued to the locket, and the truth dawning like a thunderclap. The darkness around them felt alive, pulsing with secrets that clawed at his sanity. It wasn't just about the factory. Out of nowhere, the factory door burst open again, a storm of light flooding in. A fleet of police surged forward, but the suited man laughed manically, eyes wild with panic. "You fools! You're all walking into a trap!" Jake's pulse quickened as the shadows shifted. In seconds, everything began to spiral. The man pointed a finger at Jake, fury pouring from his lips. "You think you're the billionaire hiding in a factory? You're just a pawn in a game you can't begin to understand." The words echoed deep in Jake's mind, shattering the fragile reality he held. He felt the ground shift beneath him, every certainty crashing down like shattered glass. This wasn't about class or money. It was about a legacy weighed down with secrets, betrayal spiraling from a past he couldn't escape. Just as the police moved closer, another blast rattled through the factory, ear-splitting, shattering, sending debris flying, chaos erupting all over again. Dust and smoke engulfed everything, and through it, Jake's heart ached with realization. He couldn't see Lily. He couldn't see his sister or even his father. The world spun, a dizzying tempest of betrayal and action. Just before the smoke thickened to blinding opacity, one thought screamed in his mind. What if everything he believed was a lie? As the light dimmed, a certainty took root. He had to find Lily. He had to figure out what was true, or he might lose everything. But beyond the debris, beyond the chaos, loomed a question that darkened his heart like an omen. Who can you trust when the truth is as twisted as the shadows? Jake stumbled in the chaos, heart hammering as shadows swirled around. He fought to find Lily through the thick fog of smoke and confusion. His mind raced, piecing together the fragments of the moment, the burning truth that smoldered like embers in his chest. "Lily!" he shouted, piercing the cacophony of panic. But the air thickened, clinging to him with dread. He darted towards where he last saw her, fingers brushing against debris as he navigated the labyrinth of madness. Each step felt like running through molasses, heavy and suffocating. And then he saw her. She stood frozen, eyes wide, mouth agape, gazing at something beyond him. Fear twisted in Jake's gut. "What is it?" He pushed through the smoke, desperate to reach her. But as he got closer, his breath caught in his throat. It was his father again, stepping forward from the shadows, eyes burning with urgency. "What I'm about to tell you could change everything." "Dad, I don't have time for this," Jake snapped, panicking. But then a sudden realization struck him like lightning. You were never just gone, were you? You knew. He was angry, hurt, spiraling deeper into confusion. His father steadied himself, voice low. "It was for your protection, Jake. You have to understand, you're part of something much bigger." A loud crash interrupted them. The structure of the factory creaked warningly as more debris fell dangerously close. "No!" Jake screamed, heart racing. "We have to get out of here!" Just then, something shifted in the crowd. A commotion erupted, shattering the focus. The man with the briefcase reappeared, his wild grin replaced with frantic urgency. "No, you don't understand. He's not who you think he is." Jake felt every eye turned on him, shame and curiosity mingling. "What do you mean?" he shouted, his voice hoarse. The man took a step forward, shaking, and then he lunged, arms outstretched, toward Jake. In that split second, a blinding flash ignited from the direction of the chaos. A fierce explosion rocked the factory, throwing everyone back. Glass shattered, metal twisted and screamed, as the world went dark and then bright again, a blinding light peeling away his perception. When the debris cleared, Jake blinked furiously, trying to make sense of the chaos. The crowd was gone, divided like smoke dispersing in the wind, but in his heart, a new truth struck deeper than any shock blast. In the center of the darkened factory, as smoke curled upward, a figure emerged. Jake squinted, breaths coming hard. Lily stood there, cradling the locket in her palm, eyes wide, shock painted across her features. "Jake, you need to see this." Without thinking, he rushed to her side, but when he got close, he realized she wasn't alone. A thin figure materialized beside her, his sister, awake and standing there, not just clutching the locket, but emptying what spilled from it onto the factory floor. A cascade of photographs tumbled out, each flickering against the grimy concrete. Each image felt like a gut punch, moments captured, smiles frozen in time. Jake, his sister, a woman who looked just like the one in the pendant's portrait, and another familiar face, his mother, alive and vibrant. But it wasn't just family. Each revealed a different narrative, faces of unfamiliar people entwined in family gatherings that Jake had never known. A secret life filled with joy and pain that was not his own. The unveiled truth struck hard. This wasn't just about Jake. It was about secrets buried deep that tied them all together. "Jake, I think we're not really who we thought we were." Lily's voice trembled, and for a split second, the world around them fell silent, thick with the weight of everything unfolding. His heart lurched painfully at the revelation, confusion warring with burgeoning hope. What did it mean? Did they share more than just a moment? Were they connected deeply, Bo? A shout broke the silence, pulling him back. "Get away from them!" the suited man yelled, and chaos erupted once again. Jake felt the ground rumble beneath him, and as shadows swirled, a terrifying question rose in his mind. What if every connection he held dear was a fragile illusion? As the factory trembled, Jake stood at the precipice of everything he thought he knew, every truth now shrouded in an ominous veil. Who were they really? As the dust settled, only one thought reverberated. What else lay buried in their shared past, waiting to be uncovered? Jake stared at the photographs spilling from the locket, heart pounding, breaths coming in quick bursts. Lily's expression mirrored his disbelief, wide eyes darting from one photo to the next. Each face seemed familiar yet distant, swirling memories that felt just out of reach. Questions danced on the tip of his tongue, but before he could voice them, a piercing scream ripped through the smoke and chaos. "Look out!" someone shouted. Jake's body turned instinctively. A figure lunged from the shadows, a flash of movement too quick to process. Time slowed as everything shifted into focus. The man with the briefcase, eyes wild, his intention clear. "No!" Jake shouted, lunging toward him. But it was too late. The man raised a weapon, what looked like a small bomb, not a gun. Fear seized Jake's chest like a vice. The blast erupted in a deafening roar, a shock wave rippling through the air. The world around them exploded into chaos. Sounds of metal screeching, shattering glass, filled the space like a nightmarish symphony. Dust and debris clouded the air, swallowing them whole. Jake felt himself being thrown backward, landing hard on the factory floor. He gasped, lungs burning as he struggled to sit up. The room spun, jagged edges of reality tearing at him. Panic washed over him like icy water. "Lily, my sister." He could barely speak, desperation clawing at his throat. Coughing through the thick smoke, he pushed himself up. The room was a nightmare, a landscape of twisted steel and shadows. He scanned the destruction, heart racing. But there was no sign of Lily, no sign of his sister, just the chaos and uncertainty that suffocated him. "Jake!" His father's voice cut through the noise, frantic and alive with urgency. "Over here!" Jake turned, eyes finding his father in the midst of the mayhem. But that moment of relief shattered as he caught sight of the man with the briefcase, rising amid the ruin, undeterred. A smile bloomed across his lips, sinister and sickening. "You really thought you could hide from the truth?" He sneered, his tone drenching the air in malice. "This game is just getting started." "What do you want?" Jake managed to gasp, every word a struggle. His heart felt heavy and inexplicably broken, as if a piece of him was tearing away. The man took a step forward, eyes shimmering with a twisted delight. "You think you're just a pawn? Your family is tangled in a web far deeper than you realize. Secrets that could bring your whole world crashing down." Jake was reeling. What was he saying? The past was already a nightmare. How could it get worse? But the man continued, voice low and clawing. "Your sister's more than just your sister, Jake. She's your half-sibling. A child of betrayal, just like you." Every word felt like a knife, cutting through him. Raw truth as sharp as glass. The world went still, shadows creeping around him. "No, that can't be true," he mumbled, shaking his head, trying to block it all out. "Your mother didn't just disappear. She left you all," the man hissed, a cruel smile splitting his face. "And you're not safe. None of you are." The truth hung heavy between them, a grotesque revelation that threatened everything he understood. His father's face darkened with pain and regret. "Jake, you have to understand. It was to protect you." Tears welled in Jake's eyes as the pieces began to click together, vicious and slicing. Love, trust, family, it all felt like a lie, unraveling before his eyes. "What else didn't you tell me?" he shouted, voice raw with hurt. But before he could process it, the factory shook again, dust swirling, the structures above groaning like a dying beast. Out of nowhere, a loud crash split the air, and the ground beneath them cracked. A flicker of fear pierced through as the man laughed. A chilling sound that danced with the madness surrounding them. "You'll have to decide who you can trust. The clock is ticking, Jake." Just then, amidst the panic, a cry pierced through the ash-filled air. "Lily!" He spun, frantic, but the room around him disintegrated into utter chaos. Everyone was running, faces twisted in horror. Shadows flickered, and the air buzzed with uncertainty. With the revelation hammering at his heart, Jake felt every truth he held sway beneath him. How deep did the betrayal run? Would he even recognize his own family? Amid the smoke and debris, everything crumbled like the factory around him. As darkness closed in, one thought remained. What next? What else could come crashing down? Jake's heart raced in the chaos, fear gripping him like a vice. Dust swirled around them, thick and suffocating. "Lily!" he called again, desperation rising. But the air crackled with tension, every moment drawing him deeper into confusion. Fear clawed at his insides, darkness closing in. Then, with a sudden twist, the factory trembled again, the straining walls groaning like a wounded animal. The suited man grinned wider, a gleeful madness sparkled in his eyes. "You'll never understand, will you? You think this is about your family? It goes far deeper." Jake shook his head, trying to block out the man's venom. "Stop talking. You're just trying to mess with me." But doubt encroached, gnawing at his resolve. What if he was tied to this darkness in a way he couldn't yet fathom? Then he caught sight of the photos scattered on the floor, lifeless pieces of a puzzle he was desperate to connect. They seemed to flicker under the harsh lights, every face a ghost taunting him. "Who are you?" he shouted at the man, voice hoarse. "What do you want?" But just then, an explosion echoed through the space. Fire erupted, consuming everything in its path. The lights flickered like dying stars, and for a second, time froze in that haunting blaze. Jake's instincts kicked in. "Run!" he shouted, eyes wide with fear. He bolted toward Lily, fear shredding through him. But in that moment of desperate rush, the world tilted. A figure emerged from the flames, a woman with eyes like ice. The moment Jake laid eyes on her, recognition surged through him like lightning. It was her, the woman from the locket, his mother. "Mom?" he gasped, disbelief choking him. "Is it really you?" The world around him felt heavier, silence falling like a suffocating blanket. "Jake," she whispered, voice cracking like glass. "You need to listen. It was never about the money or the factories. It was about keeping you safe." His heart thundered in his ears. He felt the ground beneath him shift, pulling away from reality. "Safe from what?" he demanded, shock twisting his emotions like a knife. "From who?" "From me." The man with the briefcase stepped forward, his grin twisting into something darker. "Your mother betrayed us all. She left you, left everyone, filled with lies." Jake stumbled back, feelings of betrayal crashing over him like waves. His mother hid in plain sight, marked by shadows he couldn't understand. "What do you mean betrayed? How could you?" But before she could answer, another blast echoing through the factory shattered their moment. "Jake, we need to leave!" Lily screamed, panic spilling from her. She reached for him, fingers brushing his arm, but the air thickened with smoke, and light flickered wildly. "Stay back!" Jake shouted, instinct driving him to protect her. "This is my family, my truth!" Then everything went chaotic. The room filled with deafening noise, shadows merging. Amid the screaming, the suited man raised his weapon and pointed it at Jake. "I'll end the cycle right here," he snarled. But just as he pulled the trigger, time seemed to slow. The factory exploded around them, sending shockwaves through the air. Moments bled together, sound swallowed by darkness. When the world cleared, Jake blinked against the smoke, eyes wide. Blood pounded in his ears, but the air was filled with an unbearable silence. In that silence, everything unraveled. The man lay on the ground, defeated. But Jake's eyes weren't on him. They were on his mother, rising from the debris like a specter, a chilling truth alighting within him. The machines hummed deeply, surrounding them like vultures eyeing their prey. "Jake, it's time to choose. Trust is a weapon, and love can be the deadliest of all." Those words echoed in Jake's mind as darkness closed in, burying secrets and truths that would forever change everything, leaving him breathless, caught at the edge of a revelation he wasn't sure he was ready to face. Jake felt the heat from what was left of the factory pressing against him, a suffocating reminder of the chaos that swirled like a storm. He blinked, trying to make sense of the half-formed images in front of him. The flames flickered, shadows danced, and Lily stood just out of reach, her hand grasping the locket like a lifeline. "Mom, why now?" he muttered, every word heavy as he struggled to meet her gaze. His heart raced, fear clawing at him. He wanted answers, but the shadows loomed larger. The man with the briefcase was gone, melting into the chaos, but the danger remained palpable, smothering the air like smoke. But before they could move, a sharp whistle cut through the night, slicing the tension wide open. Police sirens screamed in the distance, a chilling reminder that salvation was not guaranteed. "Jake!" his father shouted, urgency glinting in his eyes. "We can't stay." But just as they turned to flee, a deafening crash echoed through the factory. The ceiling above them buckled, metal bending like paper. Time fractured as everything seemed to slow. But that feeling shattered when the whole structure began to collapse around them. Dust filled the air, sharp and suffocating. Then something unexpected happened. A figure emerged from the melee. A young woman, a stranger, hair wild and eyes flashing with ferocity, pushed through the crowd. "Jake!" she yelled, struggling to get closer. "You have to listen. There's something you don't know." Jake froze, confusion gripping him like a vice. Who was she? But before he could open his mouth, she lunged forward, grabbing the locket from Lily's hand and holding it up high. "This belongs to you. This is the key." "What?" Jake's voice cracked. Bewilderment crashing over him. The woman, breathless and fierce, met his gaze. "You think you know your mother's story? You're wrong. It's all connected. The betrayal, the lies, it's deeper. You have to open it." She was frantic now, the urgency in her tone cutting through the noise like a knife. Lily stepped back, eyes wide. "Wait, what are you saying?" Before the woman could answer, another tremor shook the ground. The factory rumbled ominously, dust raining down like confetti. But Jake could barely feel it. He was locked on the woman and her words. The locket, the key. He reached for it, hands trembling. "What do you mean it's connected? Connected to what?" But just as their fingers brushed the locket, a blinding light shot through the wreckage. The factory lit up in a searing flash. A loud explosion shattered the air, throwing debris everywhere. Jake's world spun again as he was thrown back, the combination of heat and chaos swallowing him like the night sky. As Jake struggled to regain his senses, he caught sight of something in the shadows, something moving. It was his sister again, her eyes searching frantically, but they were different now. "Jake!" she cried out. But before he could respond, she darted toward the wild-haired woman and grabbed her arm. "Stay away from him!" His sister's voice was fierce, a raw edge that sent chills through Jake. "What are you doing?" he shouted, panic swelling. "She's trying to help!" But then, in a moment of crushing revelation, the woman's expression transformed. "No, you don't understand. I was sent to protect you all. The locket isn't just a family heirloom. It's a tracker." Tracker? The word struck him like a bell tolling in the distance. Suddenly, everything shifted. His sister stepped back, confusion painting her face. "Sent? By who?" Jake demanded, his confusion ripping through him like a storm, every thought spiraling faster. Before she could respond, the ground trembled violently again, concrete cracking open beneath them, and with it, all their fragile certainties began to unravel. In the mayhem, a fearsome realization crashed in. There was something more sinister at play. Shadowy figures emerged from the smoke, and Jake's breath caught in his throat. "Run!" Lily screamed, yanking at Jake, her panic contagious. In that second, clarity sliced through the chaos. His family was not just a quilt of secrets. They were tangled in a web of conspiracies, shadows lurking just beyond comprehension. As the world crumpled around him, Jake knew this was only the beginning. A choice loomed before him, a chance to uncover the truth or run from it forever. But as darkness clawed at their heels, he felt the weight of their fates pressing in. The bombshell revelations flared like a firestorm. They had to escape the darkness closing in. But what would that mean for all he thought he understood? Hope flickered as the shadows throbbed. Now it was a race against time, truth, and the shifting tides of loyalty. As the factory crumbled around them, chaos erupted like a storm. Jake felt time twisting and warping, the air thick with smoke and fear. He grabbed Lily's hand, his heart racing. "We have to move, now!" They sprinted away from the collapsing shadows, dodging debris that fell like rain. Jake's sister stumbled beside them, wide-eyed and breathless. "This way," he urged, leading them toward a stairwell that loomed like a beacon in the haze. Just as they reached it, a loud crash echoed. A beam fell, slamming into the ground where they'd been mere seconds before. "Hurry!" Jake shouted, adrenaline surging as they clambered up the stairs, 2 steps at a time. "Do you think they're gone?" Lily panted, fear and hope mingling in her eyes. "I don't know," Jake replied, trying to keep calm. Every instinct screamed that danger was still close, lurking just out of sight. "But we can't look back. We need to find out the truth." When they burst into the open air, sunlight blinded them for a moment. The factory stood behind them like a fallen giant, smoke curling into the sky. Survivors gathered in clusters, faces etched with confusion and dread. The sirens wailed in the distance, urgent and haunting. But there, among the rubble, stood a figure, bold, desperate, and commanding attention. The wild-haired woman pointed, urgency lighting up her face. "You need to listen. The past is your only salvation. You are running out of time." "Who are you?" Jake shouted, desperation pushing at his chest. "I'm someone who knows your family's secret," she yelled back, voice slicing through the noise. "The locket holds more than just memories. It's a map to your legacy." His heart raced. The locket? Memories flooded back, images from the photos spilling onto the factory floor. "What do you mean?" "There are people who want it, Jake. People who will kill for it. You have to unlock it." Her eyes burned with intensity, fear for their lives reflected back at him. Jake's sister stepped closer, holding the locket tightly. "What's inside?" she whispered, fear lacing her tone. Before the woman could reply, shadows moved at the edge of the crowd. The suited man materialized from the smoke, rage twisting his features. "You're not safe. The game isn't over," he bellowed, pointing a finger that seemed to invite chaos. But in that moment, Jake felt something shift within him. Clarity. "Enough," he shouted, grounding his voice in conviction. "You think you control us? You don't know who we are." The crowd held their breath, tension thick enough to cut. The man sneered, but Jake could see the flicker of fear behind his bravado. "You think you're special? The truth will tear you apart just like it did your mother." Jake's heart raced, anger boiling. "You don't get to play puppet master anymore. We know what you did." As Jake spoke, the wild-haired woman stepped forward. "It's time for the truth to come out." The crowd murmured, a wave of voices crashing against one another. Some were outraged, others shocked. But then, finally, they began to step forward. With each person joining in, strength built like a wall, unyielding and powerful. The suited man's expression changed, uncertainty flickering across his face. "You're making a mistake." He turned to flee, but was quickly surrounded. With a surge of determination, Jake's sister raised the locket high. "We will find the truth," she declared, voice steady with conviction. In that thrilling moment, clarity washed over Jake. No more shadows, no more lies, just hope and strength. As the sirens grew closer, Jake turned to Lily, his heart full. "Whatever happens next, we face it together." Their gaze locked, promises hanging in the air. But as the chaos settled, what lay ahead was still a mystery. Would they uncover the secrets that bound their family? Would they escape the darkness that threatened them? The truth lingered on the horizon, just out of reach. And with every breath, they prepared for the journey ahead, ready to rewrite their story. Hey there! If you loved this thrilling conclusion, you must subscribe now. Don't miss out on the next exclusive stories that are coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this ending. Your support makes all the difference. Let's keep this community thriving.